Ready, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our December 8th, 2021 Downtown Action Committee hearing. Surprising it's December already, the last meeting of the year, so here we go. 9 a.m. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Roger Jensen.
Present.
Nick Mihilich.
Present.
Brian Checkis.
Present.
Stephen Graham. Let the record reflect that Stephen Graham is not present. Michael Cuevas.
Present.
Brad McPherson.
Present.
Gregory Gabriel.
Present.
Okay, thanks. Item 2, approval of minutes from the November 10th hearing. Does anyone have any comments or corrections, deletions, et cetera? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes approved from November 10th. Item 3 today, report from City Urban Designer, Ms. Aponte.
Good morning, board members. First, I want to start wishing everybody happy holidays before we forget and get on with our meeting. I wish you have a good end of the year and best things for next year. Then second one, I would like to, the applicant for case number DAC 2104 is requesting if we can reorganize the agenda and put it, switch number 12 and number 13 on the agenda so they can be heard before.
It's okay by me unless there's any objections to that. Do we need a motion to change the agenda? Okay. Someone like to make a motion to make that switch?
Motion to change the agenda.
Okay, so we'll hear case 2104 before 2103. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so done.
Thank you. That's all I have for today.
Okay, good. Thank you. Same with me. Let's see. So, and yes, thank you, Anna Maria. Likewise, happy holidays to you all. It's been a good year, busy year. So
Busy year, yes.
Thanks again for all your help. You guys are doing wonderful work. Next item, a declaration of ex parte communication. Does anyone have any to declare for today's cases? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, great.
One of the applicant did set a Zoom meeting with me in the month of November. Don't recall the name, actually.
Which case?
I believe it's I think it's Harvey, that firm called.
I think just state the case number and what the call was about and whether or not it would affect your judgment today.
I was trying to pull my calendar to confirm.
Michael, you want to go while we're waiting on Greg?
Yes, I did meet with Glidden Spina and the development team. I'm trying to find the case here too. Is it 2104?
03.
2103. Yes.
That's 300 Banyan Boulevard, correct?
Correct. Yes, and so we had an overview of the project. That being said, I will be able to make my decision today based on the facts and testimony presented today.
Perfect, thanks. Nick?
I have met with representatives for the applicant on DAC case number 2103. And I have heard from and talked with the representative for the case number 2104. My decision will be based on the facts provided at today's hearing.
Okay, thanks.
None.
Okay, none. Did you have any?
Yeah, I believe on case 2104, I had a meeting with Keith Spina about the project, and that meeting will have no bearing on my ability to judge fairly on this case.
Okay. Greg, did you find yours?
Yeah, it's 2103.
Okay, all right, we're
Yeah.
good. Okay. And then I'm the same. I had a Zoom call with Glidden Spina Architects and the representatives for case 2103, 300 Banyan Boulevard, advocating their case, and it will not affect my judgment for today's hearing. And did receive a phone call from the attorney representing, in reference to case 2104, Al Malafetto, and again, it was just advocating his position on the case, and it won't affect my ability to judge today. So that concludes any other ex parte. If not, also noted for the record. Good, so that'll move us to section 6. We'll go into today's public hearing. First item, swearing in of speakers. Anyone today that will be speaking, kindly stand and be sworn in if you're going to give any testimony on either one of the cases. And if you are going to speak, there's some nice little forms outside. You can fill out your name and address and bring it to the front to Hope over here on the right side, and we'll make sure you're heard today.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Good, so then we'll go ahead and go forward with today's new cases. We have a series of TDR cases relative to this, so if staff would kindly go ahead and run through all those, and then we'll get to the others. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad, conflict of interest.
Sure, I'm just going to step out for the cases involving line errors. It's a client of the firm I work with, so
Is that on both cases?
All the line error matters.
Okay, all right, have fun. Now we're ready.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Good morning, Chris Eberly, Urban Design Planner. We'll start off with TDR cases 21-11 through 21-15. All of these cases involve the transfer of development rights to the same receiving site of 506 and 524 Datura Street. To begin, there are minor corrections in the case details on the amount of TDRs being transferred. These corrections were based on just final calculations of the sending sites involved. The correct numbers are included in the suggested motions and presentation. And on behalf of the applicant, Susan or Lauren Thomas will be presenting the TDR cases.
Good morning.
Morning.
Lauren Thomas with Touchstone Web Realty on behalf of Linares Transfer of Development Rights. Receiving site there, rendering, as well as the location at 506 and 524 Datura Street. Today we'll be transferring 59,700 TDRs. Our first sending site is the Heart and Soul site. There's exactly 210 square feet of TDRs that we'll be transferring. Sending site number 2 is 635 6th Street, which have a total of 10,992, 710 North Sapodilla. Again, we're transferring 21,922 from this site. Sending site 3 for a total of 24,506 square feet of TDRs available. This is 201 Clematis Street. Sending site 4, 525 Clematis Street. They've got 13,062 square feet of available TDRs that we'll be transferring. Summary of all the sending sites where they are in the receiving site for a total of 59,700 square feet. And that is it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So based upon the findings and facts presented, planning staff supports all 5 of the TDR cases in accordance to Article 4, Section 94-132. Separate motions, suggested motions have been prepared.
Okay, you complete your presentation?
Yes.
Applicants complete. Do you have comments from anyone in the audience on any of these TDR cases? Okay. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Al Malafata with Lewis, Holman & Walker, and I represent the Senior Housing Management Provider, LLC, which is the owner of the Colonial Assisted Living Facility located at 534 Datura Street, which is immediately to the west of this site. Just for the record, we're opposing the TDR transfers. We're also going to be opposing the special review, and I'll have more detailed comments at that point. But just for now, for the record, because we're opposing the special review, we're also opposing the TDR transfers.
Okay.
And we'll explain more when I get up later.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anyone in the audience on the transfer development rights portion? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public discussion for that portion. Any comments or questions from any board members to the staff or the applicant? Okay. I think these are sort of fairly straightforward. We've seen a lot of these, so I see no reason to have any objection to this, but anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve granting transfer of development rights. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the transfer of development rights, DAC case number TDR 2011, as listed in the staff report dated December 8th, 2021, as follows. A, the transfer of 10,992 square feet of TDRs from the 635 6th Street property to the properties at 506 and 524 Deterra Street pursuant to the requirements of 94-132.
Yeah, fair. Do we have to do all these separately, or can we put them all together?
Case numbers, the specific case numbers.
Do all the case numbers?
I'm going to read them all the way now.
What is, yeah. No. If you refer to the specific case numbers, you could do them as one motion.
One motion for all 5?
Okay.
Yes.
I move the Downtown Action Committee approve the transfer of development rights, DAC case number TDR 2111, 2112, 2113, 2114, and 2115, as listed in the staff report dated December 8th, 2021.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? Okay, none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Okay, all those cases move forward. We'll go into the next batch of TDR, starting with 2116.
Okay. Moving forward, these TDR cases, there are 6 of them here, 21-16 through 21-21. Again, all 6 of these cases have the same receiving site. There is another correction on the details from the agenda. It was stated that these are going to a TDR bank. The correction is actually they're going to these properties specifically, not a part of a bank. Again, Lauren or Susan, if you'd like to present.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, Lauren Thomas with Touchstone Web Realty on behalf of Flagler Capital Acquisitions LLC in Wexford. We'll go through all of them as well. Receiving site right here, 464 Fern Street, 418 Fern Street, west portion of 401 South Dixie Highway. Transferring for a total of 73,787 square feet of TDRs. First sending site is 517 Clematis. They've got available 595 square feet of TDRs that will be transferring. Sending site number 2, 526 Clematis Street for a total of 13,093 square feet of TDRs. Sending site number 3 is 513 Clematis for 28,074 square feet of TDRs. Sending site number 4, 6,423 square feet of TDRs. Sending site number 5, 426 Clematis Street for a total of 25,291 square feet of TDRs. And sending site number 6, 601 North Dixie for a total of 311 square feet of available TDRs. A summary here of all 6 sending sites and the receiving site for, again, a total of 73,787 square feet of TDRs. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're from staff applicant. Do we have any comments from anyone in the audience today on these transfer development right cases? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public discussion portion of these cases and take any questions, comments from the board or applicant or staff? Again, my same comment. As long as they're following all this protocol of staff, I see no objection to any of this. So, motion, please.
Motion to approve granting of transfer of development rights. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the transfer of development rights, DAC case cases number TDR 2116, 2117, 2118, 2119, 2120, 2121, as listed in the staff report and dated December 8th, 2021.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right, none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, those motions all carry for all those cases. Thank you. Perfect. So with the reordering of the agenda, we're moving forward to DAC case number 21-04. And request by Harvey Orr of Schutz and Bowen LLP on behalf of Lanier Group. If we could kindly have, we start with the applicant on this one? Yeah. Perfect. Same conflict.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Harvey Oyer, for the record, of Schutz and Bowen on behalf of the applicant and developer. We have our entire team with us this morning, so should you have questions, we have all the folks here to answer them. Most of the presentation will be given by the architect for design questions. I'm going to kick it off, if you don't mind, and just sort of frame the issue. This is not a new site to you. If you recall, we were before you some months ago for some rezoning, and we gave you a preview of what the project would be on this site. I think you and the staff and planning board, city commission, everyone was excited about the opportunity to redevelop what is otherwise a fairly difficult site to redevelop that has some challenges. We told you we would be back to you with the project. This is the project. It does have one variance request, which I will come back and discuss that with you after the architect presents the more interesting piece to you. To remind you of the location, this is on the south side of Datura Street, east of Rosemary, butting up against the access road to the Bright Line station. If you recall, this is a challenging site to develop for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a relatively tight site. This was part of the original plat of West Palm Beach by Henry Flagler in the early 1890s. It has lot dimensions that are what they are. We don't get to change those, and as this board well knows, you often cannot comply with all the DMP regulations on these original town of West Palm Beach platted lots. That's the case this morning as well. It is also across the street from an FPL substation, which is not going anywhere. It's fairly unattractive, and so most developers did not want to develop looking down on one of these sites. And then I think most critical to you and the community is this is the welcome mat to the city of West Palm Beach when you step off of the Bright Line train. And it's really important what the welcome mat to our city looks like. And we hope and believe that we have done a fabulous job of creating a wonderful entry to our city. So the request before you is fairly simple. It's a special review of the site plan, which includes a 132-room boutique hotel and 180 multifamily units, and a variance request for the active use and active use liners on levels 2 through 5. I will explain that in more detail, but I think you know this fairly well when you're on one of these constrained lots and you have to meet code setback requirements and drive aisle widths and parking stall lengths. You run out of real estate fairly quickly, and that does not allow for the active use liner. So with that, I will present one slide for the record, show you what zoning district it's in. It is in the Quadro Business District 10-25, meaning that we can go up to 6.5 FAR or 25 stories. Our proposal utilizes the 6.5 FAR, does not utilize all of the height. It's a 19-story project. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the architect who will walk you through the program and the design, the materials being used, and then I'll come back at the very end and discuss the variance request.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Albert Cordovez with Corwood Architects, 4210 Laguna Street, Coral Gables, Florida. We're truly excited to be here today. This is a project that we have been collectively working, our team, staff, our owner, to truly transform that particular corner, which should be an iconic setting for our entrance to this amazing, beautiful city. And we truly had an opportunity in a very challenging site, with a very challenging program, because we're mixing in the hotel use, the retail use, and the multifamily use all in one. So our goal was to truly represent that in one unified, homogeneous design, that we could take a look and feel for the project. And let me just make sure that I am here. So starting with the ground floor of the project, you can see that our first goal in unifying the design from a pedestrian realm perspective was to really activate it and do a beautiful hardscape pattern, beautiful landscape pattern, and activate almost 90% of the frontages that are within that pedestrian. As you can see from this particular ground floor, based on the uses themselves and based on today's world where we have a Lyft and Uber setup and the future of it, we created an internalized accommodating a drop-off area for all the uses. In addition to that, we have retail frontage to the actual station. And then we took all the back of house and service uses and made sure that those were set back and serviced from the existing alley that we have. And as part of our elevation scheme, as you can see, the homogeneous design that I talked to, all three elements and uses, including the fourth element, which is parking, is unified within one single architectural language, which we thought we would like to symbolize motion based on what's right adjacent to us, the station itself. And the Tura, the meaning of the Tura is a beautiful flower. So we contemplated doing some of this motion and architecture in a very organic fashion, very soft and beautiful, and creating truly a sculpture of a building for that particular gateway of the city. And as you can see here, we've essentially developed the same articulation and the same language throughout all elevations as well. One of the key components of this particular design is that we've amenitized it. I think we found the 7th floor terrace, a rooftop element terrace, which we have amenities, a pool deck with amazing, beautiful views. And we can count with almost twice the required private open space as required in the code on this particular project. These are some of the true rendering shots. One from the corner, as you can see here, is an aerial representation right across the station itself. Again, today we're extremely happy. I think we have an iconic building that sets the mark as the arrival to this particular city. And every small little, I mean, we've paid attention to all the particulars from the inside out, and we got to the exterior designing, as I said, a unified, we believe, a truly beautiful look and feel and language for this particular project. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions of the architect while he's here now? No. Do you have any detail sheets just showing some of the more specific material selections and railing details, et cetera?
Yes, I don't believe they were included on this particular.
You don't have them here today?
It's in the package, yeah.
I saw that, but you don't have it for today. It's going to be nice to show the audience because you've done a nice job. It's a very elegant design. It'd be interesting just to correlate that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see some of the elements that are listed on these elevations there. And we're using a green screen element, obviously with true organic material. We're using the use of aluminum and glazing components throughout the building, a combination of smooth cementitious materials and light texture cementitious materials. The color scheme also, we did it on purpose just so that we could blend in the fenestrations and the look and feel of the color of the glass, the color of the mullions, and ultimately we're using a hyperflex system to completely conceal the parking as you can see here. It is totally in harmony with the rest of the architecture of the building, essentially making a one homogeneous design.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
May have some questions later, but that's a good presentation.
Thank you.
And then Harvey, you're going to explain the variances, you said?
I am.
Yep.
But before we do that, Mr. Chairman, I just want to go through the DAC standards for the special review. I won't go through each of these. We comply with them. Staff concurs. Happy to go back to this if you'd like to, but not sure that's a good use of your time. Let's talk about the variance. There is a single variance request from table Roman numeral 4-42 to eliminate the active use and active use liner on levels 2 through 5 on the Datura side only, not on the Quadrille Plaza Drive side. It meets that. I'd also like to point out that we not only meet, but we exceed the active use requirement on the ground floor on both streets. And the sole reason for not being able to meet the active use requirement on the upper stories on the Datura side only is occasioned by what I alluded to earlier. This is part of the original plat of the town, then town, today city, of West Palm Beach from 1894. And these lots are what they are, and they have been for, 130 years. And I know that your board has encountered this in the past and granted similar variances on other projects. I will mathematically demonstrate that in a moment, but the actual variance request, it's a single variance, two parts, both from table 4-42. There is a 60% active use requirement on floors 2 through 5 to a depth of 15 feet, and we are seeking variances from both of those. The lot depth is 143 feet. That is the limiting factor, not a self-created hardship by the applicant. So this is sort of a textbook definition of a variance. The building is designed to a maximum of 120 feet in depth after compliance with all of the required setbacks. It has a 6-level parking garage. If the variance were not to be granted, we would have to have a much higher parking garage in order to park the project. It'd not only be inefficient, costly, a waste of resources, but the one thing all of us are trying to accomplish is not look at more levels of parking garage in the downtown, particularly as we move away from using vehicles in the future, hopefully. So I want to go through each of these one by one. The standard of review, the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land. That is the case here. We are limited by the platted lot, as we discussed. This shows the platted lots. Standard C and D of granting a variance is that it will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that has been denied to other lands, buildings, or structures. And I cite only 2 examples that I could think of right offhand. I imagine there's more, and that's the Cosmopolitan site and the Marriott site, both of which had the identical problem. Now, let's look at the sort of math on this, and this is applicable to variance standard E, and this, I think, best illustrates it. By the time we meet the required setback, the required sidewalk width, the required parking stall length, the code minimum drive aisle width, this is a cross-section of levels 3 through 5, you can see that you run out of real estate to meet the code. So this is the reason we're seeking the variance. As you know, the entire reason for having an upper story active use requirement is so that it does not look like a parking garage. It looks like humans are occupying it. Fortunately, with the fabulous design of this architect, the upper stories all have fenestration. So you don't know whether there's someone working at a desk behind that window or a parked car behind the window. So speaking to the intent of the DMP provision, which is to have it appear that there is active use, we obviously meet that. So there is no harm visited upon the public, and we meet the spirit and intent of the code. The project complies with all other DMP regulations, including, as I said, we exceed the ground level active use requirement, and we do meet the upper story liner requirements on the Quadro Plaza Drive side. So we're talking strictly floors 2 through 5 and only on Datura, and believe that it's been more than mitigated. This speaks to the issue of the architecture. This illustrates it a little bit better than my words. The variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare, because as you can see, it has the same or similar fenestration on levels 2 through 5 of the parking as you do on all of the residential and hotel portion, as well as the same architectural detail elements. So no distinction. This also illustrates our site in purple relative to the neighboring properties. This helps you understand some of the dimensions, the distance from the front door of the train station, the location of the FPL substation, the location of a much larger project, the Park Line project that's 25 stories and a full city block in length immediately behind us on the other side of a 17-foot alley. And you can see in red Mr. Malafato's client's property, the assisted living facility. Fortunately, it is separated by 55 feet of garden space. So there is a large natural separation between us and them. And I believe you're going to hear from Mr. Malafato. I'd like to reserve time for rebuttal because all of the issues that have been raised by that group pertain to construction phasing, staging, protecting their building. Obviously, we're not only legally required to comply with it, but I'll be on the record, we will work with them to ensure that any of our staging, phasing during the construction process, we will work with them. We're obviously insured. We're responsible for any damage. I doubt that any damage will occur, given that the Park Line, a much larger, taller project, much closer, 17 feet from their building, as opposed to 55 feet, I believe was successfully constructed without any damage to their facility. I wanted to preempt some of that discussion because I think all of their concerns are related to construction, which is not within your purview today. This is a site plan approval process, and we have a very long runway to address construction. The time frame for construction drawings review by the city, we're 6 or 9 months away from commencing construction, more than adequate time to deal with any of their concerns. Again, this is going through each of the variant standards. I normally wouldn't do this with you. We comply with all of them. Staff agrees, but I thought I would give you some illustration in case you would like to discuss any of the variant standards in particular. I'll give you a moment to absorb that. I don't want to read to you.
Are we okay with that?
So in sum, there are 10 variant standards. We meet all of them. Staff concurs. This is a variance that you have routinely granted. It is occasioned solely by something outside of our control. So in sum, our request is for your approval of our special review and for approval of the variance from section 9438D6 of the code. We stand ready for questions. Thank you for your time and attention. And again, Mr. Chair would like to reserve time for rebuttal should Mr. Malafato raise other issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
So noted. Thank you for the presentation. That concludes yours, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Very thorough. Anything else from staff on this one before we open it up to public comment?
Yeah, we have a.
Oh, you got your full ones. I'm sorry. We won't
We'll
do that again.
As well. Again, this is for DAC case 2104, Chris Kimmerly, Urban Design Planner. This variance and special review, I'll try to fly through some of the repeated information. So because of the nature of this project, its size, and the use of TDR incentives, it is subject to a special review. In addition, it is asking for a single variance. Again, this is the variance from table 4-42. for the active use liners above the second floor. The variance is related to the building's design and the impact on the public realm. Public realm's impact is we want a vibrant downtown. The quality public realm is not only provided by the streetscape elements, but also the activities created by the private buildings. Just a brief reminder of what it means to be an active use. Active use is an enclosed building designed for human occupation with a direct view of adjacent streets and public open space. And for the variance, the active use liner means an active use that serves to conceal parking and other non-habitable uses such as mechanical. These active uses liners typically include additional commercial, hotel, residential, and office space. Again, so the variance deals with the active use liners. As Harvey stated, we have the buildable lot frontage there. 60% of this would be 140 feet. The proposed active use liner comes out to about 51 feet, so 22%. So the variance request is that 38% difference, or the 89 feet. Staff recognizes the constraints with the site with the buildable lot depth after the rear and front setbacks. Additionally, the liner uses would be quite narrow and would impede the internal parking structure, requiring additional floors in order to meet the parking minimums, both of which are undesired outcomes for increasing the height of the parking. And additionally, the project does face the FP&L electrical service substation there. To reiterate, staff supports this variance because the site constraints are related to the parking operations and its efficiency. The active use liners would be facing a vacant structure and electrical substation. It is the minimum request necessary to make this project work. The staff has met with the applicants several times to revise the ground floor active use and to bring that into compliance. And the variance is necessary in order to help develop this multifamily and hotel project. Staff does recommend the following condition on this variance. So for the non-active screening of the garage structure, staff would suggest the punch-out design of the building's windows to be continued as is illustrated, and maintaining that the window frame and mullions sit in front of the suggested mesh screening. This is just to continue that architectural facade, make it look like it is a part of the building with the rest of the windows and keep it consistent. Moving on to the special review standards. These are the 4 points here. So the relationship of the building to the site and surroundings, circulation and traffic flow, building design, and the public realm. In regards to the relationship of the building site and surroundings, the building massing is compatible with the surrounding context. There are similar scaled structures within the area, such as the Park Line building, which it shares an alleyway. Additionally, 360 Rosemary is just around the corner on the block there. Looking here in the illustrations, we see the heights, and then additionally calling out setbacks. The yellow in the bottom right there is a 5'8" setback, which is not required for the site interior for the ground to first 5 levels. They did include this setback. Staff does have a condition on the 6th, 7th floor there for the terrace. This is to lower this terrace there in order to comply with the conditional setbacks of structures above the 5th floor, which they would have to do a 20-foot setback. And then from floor 7 up, you can see that this 20-foot setback is met. They actually exceeded a little bit, 24 feet, 1 inch. And then again, providing context to the area. We've seen this, there's electrical substation, vacant parcels across the street, park lines behind the building sharing an alley, the bright line, and then the assisted living facility. The project further respects its neighbors by continuing that architectural facade on its side interior. So the balcony projections and the architectural treatments are wrapped around the building's western side as well, continuing that complete design. Moving into circulation and traffic flow, the project meets minimum parking requirements, actually exceeds them slightly, and then includes bicycle racks and exceeds this value as well, the minimum. The parking structure is a valet serviced. There is a pickup and drop off on the east side along Quadro Plaza Drive. DMP regulations specify for a bike room and shower facility, so that's shown there in the red. Then the streetscape is adequately landscaped. There's addition of street trees and shade trees necessary. It meets vegetation requirements. And then the applicant's traffic study suggests that overall gross trips may increase, but volume tests have determined that there are no significant impacts to the weekday peak hours, or during weekday peak hours. Here are the conditions for the circulation and traffic flow staff recommends. The first one is for the shower facility to include a toilet and vanity on the first floor. Staff recommends a condition to approve for the pickup and drop-off be limited to ride-sharing services and not be utilized by the valet operations on the site. Staff recommends a condition of adjusting the garage egress to provide a direct pedestrian connection from the valet services out to Datura Street and public right-of-way. And staff recommends a condition of removing a small portion of the landscape along Quadro Plaza Drive. I'll just show that here. So it's the little red corner and along the alleyway. So this is to allow a more direct connection onto the continuation of the park lines sidewalk, because it is a little askew. And then extending that landscape buffer on the back side along the alleyway to provide a buffer between the building and the alley itself. In terms of building design, we have the architectural treatment here for, this is consistent for active and non-active uses. The staff is recommending approval to ensure that this detail and screening are upheld, and this is an integral part of the design and not just an applied treatment. Regarding the green screen here, staff just wants to make a recommendation in a condition that requests that the green wall material shall not be artificial. It will be organic, only living vegetation, and the proposed material will be viable, so it will maintain and grow, and that any irrigation will, provide that vitality for the plants. Moving to the public realm, we see here the active uses that are highlighted on the ground floor. This project meets the ground floor active uses and captures potential traffic between Clematis and Rosemary Square and coming off of the Bright Line. The active uses are co-working spaces, the lobbies for residential and hotel use, and commercial and restaurant space. The public realm was further enhanced through shade trees and planting areas with a wider frontage along Datura. Staff recommends a condition. Again, this is that same condition of previously, to just adjust the landscaping in the bottom corner here, to extend it along the alleyway, and to just widen this path for pedestrians connecting to the sidewalk across the alley. In terms of public input, we did send a mailer to all property owners 500 feet within the project site. There was a letter received from the adjacent living center's legal representation. We believe that these issues can be resolved through or prior to the commencement of construction documents, pre-construction meeting with building department officials, planning staff, applicants, and contractors, and the assistant living facility to address and devise any plans necessary to mitigate these construction impacts. And staff also encouraged legal representation from both clients to try to resolve these issues beforehand. Overall, staff recommends the approval of the variance for DAC case number 2104 based on the findings that the requested variance meets the standards as indicated in section 94-48D6 of the zoning and land development regulations. Staff does recommend the following condition of approval for the variance: that the non-active screening of the garage structure, punch-out design of the building's windows shall be continued, and maintaining that the window frame and mullions are maintained while recessing that mesh screening. And then staff recommends approval for the special review of that case number 2104 based on the findings that the petition meets the standards as indicated by section 94-54B2 of the zoning and land development regulations. Staff recommends the following conditions for the special review. The first being the proposed drop-off and pickup services limited to ride-sharing services, not for the valet on site. Adjusting the garage egress to provide a direct pedestrian connection to Datura and the public right-of-way. Request additional information on the green wall, mandating living vegetation and proper irrigation. Number 4, to remove that portion of the landscape along Guadro Brazza Drive to extend the section of the sidewalk and to extend the landscaping along the alleyway. Number 5 is the proposed shower facility to include a vanity and toilet. And 6 is for the terrace along the western side of the property to be removed or lowered to comply with the conditional 20-foot setback on the side interior for floors above the 5th level. And 7, to refine the design to make sure that the architectural treatments are not just an implied element. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That complete your presentation?
Yes.
Thanks. It was very thorough and complete. Appreciate it. A couple of quick questions relative to your presentation.
Yes.
You mentioned notices sent to all the neighbors there. Any discussions with the Parkline high-rise in particular? Any objections from them?
We have received no objections.
Assuming FPL's not objecting. And then real quick, all your recommendations for the applicant for conditions, do you know if they're in agreement with those? Or maybe that's a question for the applicant.
The applicant accepts all of the conditions of approval.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And then Chris, last thing, the adjacency at the alley, everything I'm sure is all to code and meets all the separations for fire, building, zoning?
Yes.
Between the two structures?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other specific questions for staff before we move on to public comment? No? All right, we'll come back. You'll have time later. Okay, thank you very much. So we've heard from the applicant and staff. That's complete. Now we'll go ahead and open this up for public commentary. I have a whole stack of notes I'll go through here. And if anyone else does want to speak, again, you can fill these out and bring it up front, and we'd be happy to hear from you. So we'll just go in the order here. First is Michael Pike, 1209 North Olive Avenue. Oh. He's second.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Michael Pike. I would like to defer
Sure.
my placement, not my time, to Mr. Malafato,
We can do that.
so he could go first, if that's okay.
Absolutely, it makes sense. Thank you for pointing that out. Mr. Allen.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Again, for the record, my name is Al Malafato with the law firm Lewis, Longman and Walker, and I represent the Senior Housing Management Provider, LLC, which is the owner of the Colonial Assisted Living Facility, as I said earlier, immediately next door. The Colonial has 110 elderly and handicapped residents. Many of them are here today. Some will speak for you. And our residents are really dreading the prospect that another high-rise development immediately, dominating over them is going to occur, disrupting their daily lives, potentially endangering them. Contrary to Mr. Oyer's statement, when the park line was constructed, there was structural impacts on our building. The building was constructed in 1924, so it's somewhat fragile. We worked out the issues with the park line, but there were definite impacts resulting from that. And so we are concerned about the structural integrity of the building, and particularly because of the close proximity of this massive structure. And I have to say, contrary to the staff report and to the presentation by the applicant, we would argue that the applicant has failed to meet Section 9454B2A of the Downtown Master Plan. That provision requires that the effects of the proposed building on neighboring properties be assessed so that negative impacts are minimized, and they have not done that whatsoever. They've completely failed to do it. There's been no consideration of the impacts on our building or our residents in either the site plan or in the building design. Mr. Oyer stated that they're prepared to meet with us, after approval, prior to the construction, to address these issues, and that's just not going to be enough. We also object to the variance because, seriously, one of the things required for variance is a demonstration of hardship, and they did not demonstrate hardship. They basically created their own situation based on their building design, which would then require the variance. So they put themselves in a position to require a variance, and staff just went along with that, which we also have a problem with. So short of denial, which we'd like to see, but short of that, there's another provision of the code, 9454B3, which calls for community meetings. And we think that at a minimum, there should be an opportunity for a community meeting prior, and typically that should occur before your consideration, but you can require them to have a meeting with us, see if we can work out these issues before site plan approval, because our concern is if site plan approval is granted, they're going to be on a road and there's not going to be anything compelling them to meet with us and address our concerns. And with that, I'd be happy to address any questions. We are going to have some of our residents get up here to speak, as well as another gentleman from our team who's going to show an aerial of the proximity of the construction site with our building.
Okay, thank you. Any particular questions right now, or we can always come back later? Okay, we'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, appreciate it. Next, Michael Pike, are you going to speak then? Okay.
Good morning, Michael Pike from the law firm of Pike and Lustig. I represent Senior Housing Management Provider, LLC, on behalf of the residents in this senior living community. I'm here to talk about litigation and the avoidance of litigation. Litigation is going to cost the taxpayers a significant amount of money. What we do not want here is a repeat of Surfside. This is a serious situation. You have adjacent buildings that have been built and that are going to be built, mega structures. I've heard a lot of comment today about this is our city's welcome mat. Your welcome mat will be permanently stained if the appropriate protections and safeguards are not taken into consideration. We are not here to stand in the way of the developers unless they do not protect our residents and our building. We have a 1924 building with an addition in 1930. As Mr. Malafato said, it is in just the age alone should cause serious concern. Having Surfside 62 miles south of us should also cause serious concern. The patio in which these residents live, they enjoy their days. They walk with their walkers. They play checkers. They play chess. This is where they live. This is their home. This is where they are living. They can't go anywhere else for financial restrictions. I sent everyone on this board a letter detailing the soil compaction, the geotechnical issues, whether or not you're going to have subterranean pillars. These things are soil compaction. Soil compaction causes a great amount of vibration, especially to adjacent walls. The appropriate testing needs to be put in place. We are here way earlier than Surfside was. We're here earlier to advise you of the necessity to take extra precaution here, to make sure that the residents are protected, and to make sure that we're not spending taxpayer dollars for litigation that I will be forced to file if the appropriate protections are not taken. Again, we're not here to stand in the way. We're here to protect the residents of this county, of this city, and a building that is not only a historic building, but one that holds history in it. Living, breathing people. I've heard a lot about the vitality of vegetation today, the vitality of organic vegetation. I'm here to talk about the vitality of human life and to make sure the vitality of these people who are sitting in this audience, the residents of that assisted living facility, are 100% protected by the city, by you, members of the board, by you, Mr. Chairman, and by anyone who is developing on that land. I want to thank you for your time and your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Next, Lori Clafter, 534 Deter Street. Yeah, if you just kindly use the microphone up here and state your name and address for the record, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Clafter, and we're just really, really upset because we don't want to lose our home. And we don't want this to cause damage to our building. And this is our home, and we're just devastated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Ash Hamed, 534 Deter Street.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ash Hamid. I lived in 534 Datura, Colonia, and I would like to say something by approve the two building. We get really devastated about, you know, we cannot breathe, you know, we cannot do nothing. You know, I want to know, you know, how we're gonna, you know, you wake up in the morning, you find you looking at the wall, or you'd rather walking at the sky. It's it's a good building, what we have in Datura. And it's, for God's sake, it's LAF, you know. It's not like in a building, you know what I mean? No, this one building for the people cannot find over 65, less than 65 years old, you know. We find place we consider home. I have been there almost 9 years. So, you know, You tell me, you got two buildings, close all the air around us? It doesn't make no sense, guys. Really, it doesn't make no sense. You know, I saw the picture about the building. The building looks beautiful. Don't take me wrong. But it's killing us as a human. You know? So I would like to ask you that, you know, you turn their offer, and I appreciate it. And God bless you. And happy holiday for every one of you. And happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, thanks for your commentary, appreciate it. Okay, next is Joseph Basagle, probably mispronounced that, my apologies, 610 Clematis, number 714.
Mr. Chair, can I also ask that anyone else with public comment to bring all their comment cards now so that they're not sporadic?
I think why I do have this stack, I said if there's any others, yep, bring them up to Ms. White, thank you. Is there, Joseph, is he come up? Joseph, are you going to speak, or are we waiting on you? No? No, Joseph? All right, we'll move to the next one then. Rafael Clemente, Downtown Development Authority.
Chairman, that's a next case.
You are right. My apologies. 2103. Never mind. That's a 2103 too, and this is there's a 2104. Ken Salloway.
Good morning, and thank you very much for your time. I'm Ken Saw. I work with Colonial Assisted Living. I did not plan to speak. I came just in attendance, but I was emotionally stirred by everything, all the comments, and we wanted to cue a video just of some, wanted to give a visual from our perspective of the importance of that yard area. So Anna Maria, I believe you have the video. And I really want you guys to have in mind that that 55 feet that was mentioned, that's not just a 55-foot separation, a garden area. That is their place that they are day in, day out. During COVID, the majority of the time, they're not allowed to even leave the property, and most of them do not. They rely on that courtyard for their place of refuge, for their everyday life, and they're human beings, right? The vitality that was mentioned. I'm sorry to get emotional about this, but you must understand that what that courtyard provides for them, their air, we have to treat them with a certain level of dignity. In the ALF world, we have something called resident rights, and this has to be factored in. So please, if you can cue Anna Maria the video, just to really show.
I don't see any video. I mean, I'm seeing these pictures.
So if you see the images, this is just a random day. You can see they're there for several hours a day just for planned, scheduled activities. And the rest of the time, they're sitting there playing games, playing cards, socializing. That's right. If you see that pink wall that you saw in that picture, that is basically the edge of where the proposed property will be. That wall is the separation. So we really thank you for your consideration, and please, please factor in our residents' everyday life, the resident rights, and the safety of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Case moved. Okay, Josephine E. Padilla, 534 Datura.
Good morning. My name is Josephine Padilla. I've been living there for 3 years. I don't want to lose my friends. That's very close. We have a trip once a week. We do craft. We do music, I mean, I love that place. We love the staff. They're good to us. The food, I mean, it's good. I don't want to lose my place. I really don't. Please don't do that to us. Please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Hopefully you will not lose your place, I'm sure of that. So, let's see, we have Michelle Williams? Michelle Williams.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nichelle P. Williams.
Nichelle, my
Thank you.
apologies, yeah.
I'm actually a resident, not of the facility, but my address is 1739 North Congress in West Palm Beach. And originally, I wasn't going to speak, but I'm listening to everything. And I do want to say this, that I kept hearing about the alleyway. The alleyway, there's a lot of problems with the alleyway, and there still is problems with the alleyway. I drive to work every day. Let me calm down. I know he said that one day we may not have cars, or we do away with cars, but for right now we have cars. And when Bright Line was built, our cars was continually cemented, and we had to go and try to get, because of the construction, get the cemented off the cars, and it was always a battle back and forth. That's something I want us to think about. I don't know if it's gonna go through or not. I hope it doesn't, but it caused a lot of the people that have to work downtown an issue. I'm not for sure how many of you guys work downtown, drive downtown, even live downtown, but they live, I travel, and it was definitely challenging. And the other thing I want to share is that it is considered historical, and it is their home. I know we all have to grow and advance, but it's their home. So I hope you can consider changing it or not voting for it, being straight out about it. Maybe we can find them another site or something, but I'm asking you to please hear the calls and the pleas of the people that are here, and please understand that more people was affected when Bright Line was put in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of my stack. Are there any other comments from anyone in the audience on this case? Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the public discussion portion. We'll have some commentary, but thank you for all your comments. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning. My name is John Venables. I live at Colonial Assisted Living. And there's a courtyard there that everybody goes out after breakfast and lunch, and they get together. Every day, they get together. Now, with this new building that's going to be in effect, these people have no freedom. There's no light, no dark, nothing. They're going to go out after breakfast and sit in the dark. They go out after lunch, they're going to sit in the dark. Myself, I'm there. That's my home right now. And I appreciate living there. But I am dead set against the building being put up where everybody is going to be in the dark, talking to each other. That's all I have to say, and I think it's a lot of crap that they're going to put a building up and hide from people that are enjoying each other at a dinner, at a lunch, and then go out for a breath of fresh air in the dark because of a 25-foot story building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll ask one more time. Let's see, any more public commentary before we close the public discussion portion of this case? Okay, so noted. But again, I appreciate everyone's comments from the audience and from the public. We appreciate you taking the time. We understand there's lots of issues that go on with the growth and development of cities. We are here to uphold and support the intent and spirit of the downtown master plan is our main charge as a committee and a board. And we take very seriously everyone's commentary, both from the staff, the professionals, the applicants, and the citizens. So thank you for your time. With that being said, I think you wanted some rebuttal time, Mr. Oyer?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind, just a few minutes. So, thank you all for your commentary. I'd like to just put a few facts into the record for your consideration. I and my client and this professional team have been working on this project for almost 2 years. As you know, it's well known. We've been in front of the CRA, we've been in front of the City Commission, we've been in front of DAC, we've been in front of Planning Board. There's been newspaper articles, there's been public notices. So you call it 18 to 24 months have transpired. And the first time that I heard that they had concerns was when their attorney, Michael Pike, sent me a letter 48 hours ago. And the letter is all about construction concerns, which I will be on the record right now, again, in accordance with the law, that we will meet with them, we will work with them, we will visit no harm on their building, we will take all necessary precautions, we will be insured, etc. That's not the purview of this board today. I'd also like to point out that that property owner that hired 2 lawyers to show up here today, both of which I've known for over 20 years, either one of which could have picked up the phone and called me and said, we have an issue here. That same property owner has his own development rights. So as you hear them say, no tall buildings, I suspect someday they'll be in front of you seeking approval for a tall building. They have the same development rights that we do. I'll also point out that it's a bit disingenuous that we're hearing this because this same senior living facility owner negotiated with my client to sell his property to us, and we could not meet his price demand. I can give you the emails to demonstrate this and happily put them in the public record. But I find it interesting that earlier in 2021, they're trying to sell us the property, which by definition would remove all of these people from their home. And because we did not meet their price demand, he has all of his residents come in and say, we're darkening their space, we're kicking them out of their homes. It's a bit disingenuous, and I want the record to be very clear. I did fail to mention in our presentation another important fact, and that is that my client is voluntarily building and restricting 34 workforce housing units for which they have no obligation under the code to do so. They've done this voluntarily with a 20-year restrictive covenant. Staff can verify this. So this is truly a community-serving project, developing a site that no one else would touch at the welcome mat to our city and voluntarily contributing to this community's #1 problem, which is affordable and workforce housing. I'm happy to try to answer any questions, but I'd like the record to be perfectly clear on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so good. We've had staff, applicant, public commentary, rebuttal. I think unless there's anyone else immediately, we'll close that discussion, and then we'll go ahead and take questions from board members for the applicant or staff. Now, anyone like to go?
Mr. Chair, a few quick questions. Mr. Royer, for your architect, what's the, I really haven't seen how that western edge was going to be treated adjacent to the courtyard and adjacent to the assisted living facility. Do you have any details of that so we understand what's happening at ground level or for the first 5 floors and whatnot? So it looks like you have a portion of green screen over there. Is there any enhancements that can happen at that first floor level that can really kind of beef up that western edge so that they're not looking at a gray wall, they're not looking at something that's kind of lifeless? Extend that green wall over the green screen or just expand upon that. They have a huge garden there now, but your edge condition seems to be a little harsh.
And that was exactly our intent. If you notice, we're treating that particular ground level area with the green walls that we used on the other side. We're also treating the immediate 5 floors and all the floors above it with the same articulation and language as we're treating the entire building, including the fenestration opening, so that doesn't look like a garage facing them on that particular 5-story portion.
Yeah. I'll reserve the rest of my questions after.
That's why he's right there. Can you maybe just reinforce that commentary with the landscape treatment at the base there?
Absolutely. I think there's an opportunity to do that as well. Yes. In addition to the hardscape, in addition to the landscape trees we have in the shrubbery, introduce a few more green wall elements on that particular area. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll reserve my rest of my questions.
For now? All right.
Yeah.
Greg, you got it? I know? Steven? No? No questions? Nick?
I was just curious, you know, in this situation, what are the responsibilities of parties when you have a new building next to an old building? I understand everybody's insured, but in the light of Surfside, is there recent protocol where if you are an old building, it's you're responsible to check your structure if something is adjacent, or is there some report from the proposed construction that says we're using these methods and it's not going to affect next door?
Rick Green, Development Services Director. Subsequent to Surfside, I will let you know that we had a Zoom call that I participated in along with my building official, and I want to say representatives from probably 25 other cities, at least 25 other cities in Palm Beach County. So the county is taking the lead, and they are working on standards and regulations that will be imposed for older buildings based on proximity to the ocean. It hasn't been determined yet, but basically, based on the distance you are from the ocean and the age of the structure, there will be a requirement that there be periodic reviews based on the age of the building and, again, the distance or separation. So the closer you are to the ocean, the more regular those reviews have to be. Has to be a structural inspection and a bunch of other things. My building official, Robert Brown, is serving on the subcommittee that's working with the county. I suspect it's probably going to be the spring or early summer before something gets brought forward. So there's nothing in place now. I will say that I know as part of the assisted living facility, we had some issues that my building division was addressing maybe 3 or 4 years ago, trying to bring some of the standards of that building up to code. And I believe there may have been some work done without permits, but we spent a lot of time working on that building and making sure that those corrections were made.
Mr.
And Mr. Green, in addition, but isn't it just standard practice, this project or any project, that they need to protect adjacent properties regardless, whether it's foundation
Absolutely.
or undermining? That's standard practice, correct?
Absolutely. And as was mentioned, you know, I can't speak for the applicant, but I suspect they probably don't have a contractor on board yet. Once that contractor is hired, and what I've offered to Mr. Malafato when we spoke yesterday, certainly we typically have a pre-construction meeting with my building division, my inspectors. My building official usually leads that meeting with the contractor, and we talk about how the building is going to be built, what safety measures are going to be taken into place. If there's any requests for after work hours, there's a whole separate process that has to take place. So we typically have those discussions once they're moving forward with construction. And again, we would have no objection in inviting somebody representing the assisted living facility to sit in on those meetings.
Mr. Chair, Rick, real fast, while you're still there. And I'm sorry if Nick, I just want to, while I have Rick. Yep. So lessons learned from when Parkline went up, there seemed to have been some issues that have happened when they were only 17 feet away from this building. Is things that we know now today that we can prevent so that we're ahead of the curve on any potential impacts to these folks as when construction does come down the road? Did we learn anything from that? Do we know that we can resolve them before it even happens this time?
Yeah, I personally am not familiar with any specific incidents that took place with regard to Parkline. Not to say that there weren't any, I'm just not aware of any. But typically what will happen, a construction company, whether it's Cast, White, Suffolk, whoever it might be, they typically will go and film the inside of any adjoining properties to make sure of the condition prior to construction. There'll be certainly conversations during construction of any issues that are taking place. And then certainly if there are any damages caused as a result of the construction, then whatever facility that's adjoining the construction will certainly have that discussion with the contracting company.
We have some of the biggest construction GC companies in the room today, so they obviously build these buildings downtown. They know how to do it, and lessons learned. If these people are involved down the line, I know we're going to end up with a safe and quality project.
And I'll reference, if the board is familiar, the newer members may not, but if you remember the Canopy Hotel that was built, that was just several feet away from Two City Plaza. I mean, you want to talk about a tight condition, that was tight. And that construction seemed to work fairly well, and we didn't have any issues arising as a result of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm certain there's testing, monitoring, there's all kinds of criteria with which code and building has to comply with your agencies. So again, I think it's a little bit out of our purview, but we are concerned about it, and we understand that you will follow up on that to ensure that
Absolutely.
there won't be any problems to the adjacent structures. Thanks, Mr. Green. Okay, let's see. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, I think in terms of the request here today, I think the applicant, in terms of a special review component, it's a very elegant building. I think it's unique as quality, character, it's a dynamic building. I mean, the specific issues for the architect from staff, I agree with their recommendations. I'm not a huge fan of grays, as you know, but I think given the fact that it will help to accentuate the movement and flow of your balcony design is a worthy color choice. And then in terms of the variances, I don't have an issue. Again, I believe it does run with the land as staff suggested in their research and criteria. And I know we've run into this situation in other buildings similarly. I think I had my questions already for staff earlier. My only question for the architect, if they don't mind, I know you addressed the mullion patterns of the garage screening on the north side, but can we just bring up that the slide of the south elevation that faces the alley? I understand it's a very narrow alleyway. I just wanted to see what you're doing on the treatment of the garage portion there. And I guess, so is that all painted stucco on that portion?
That is correct. That is the portion of the garage that faces the immediate park line garage.
Right.
Not facing anything above that, it is treated with the same.
I guess I'll leave that to staff, because I know we spent a lot of time having the park line create a very elegant screen facade for their building, which now will be obscured by your structure. So I'll just let staff maybe review that again and see if they want a special treatment there. But given the narrowness of that and the fact that it's facing a garage structure and I don't believe it faces any of the units, that's probably acceptable.
Thank you.
And I already said, so you're in agreement with the conditions from staff. And one last question for staff. When we looked at this case previously, did we make was that just a preliminary presentation? We didn't pass any judgment on that, did we?
No, Mr. Chair, when you heard reference to this project before, it was for the approval of the code amendment to allow hotels in this district. Was nothing related to this project in particular.
Okay, thanks. And my only other comment relative to some of the staff recommendations of the traffic and congestion there that's sort of starting to get a little more busy on the Quadro Plaza there with the Bright Line, kind of now that's reactivated. Has all of the traffic issues sort of been vetted out with staff and engineering as far as your concerns and the additional traffic in that area?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the traffic has been evaluated with a traffic analysis prepared by the applicant. There's no substantial impacts on the circulation around the area.
Okay.
The level of service will be maintained.
Okay. Okay, well, like I say, appreciate everybody's comments. I think in terms of what we're reviewing here specifically today, I don't have any objections to the variance component. I think it's an elegant structure. I do understand the concerns of the neighboring structure, and given the context of the master plan, I think it conforms with the goals and the spirit and the intent of the master plan. And we're going to rely on the city to address all of the concerns of the construction aspects and components in terms of code enforcement and monitoring and the general outlines that were described by staff in their report. So I don't have any problems with this.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, Gregory.
Just as you mentioned, traffic, it just crossed my mind. And I may kind of elaborate what is no substantial impact means, because as you add more cars, you might end up creating bottleneck. I know the building would use valid services, so they might be able to move car faster out of the way, but do they have any traffic count, traffic volume, any modeling that was, I'm not sure what the traffic report said, if anyone can elaborate on that.
Can staff comment on that? And do you mind, can you just pull up the site plan one more time that shows the final site plan so we can look at the circulation flow?
That's a ground level. So to address your question there with the traffic study, it did show overall gross daily trips increasing by over 1,600 or around 1,600. But the volume tests determined that there was no significant impact to the level of service within 1 mile along the roadway linkages during weekday peak hours.
So the level of service is going to stay the same?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, was there any consideration for the out ramp just to go one directionally, let's say, for example, west on Detroit? Just from personal experience, we've noticed a lot of congestion at the Quadrille Plaza in Clematis, given all of the railroad activity and the reinstitution of the Bright Line traffic. It kind of does bottleneck there as traffic's flowing west to east on Clematis and south to north on Quadrille Plaza. Was any consideration given to have that traffic flow west only on Datura coming out of the building?
Yeah, there was interdepartmental review with the traffic engineer specifically regarding that valet operation and the parking ingress and egress. This configuration was determined to be the most optimal for valet service and for that parking structure. Traffic engineering did determine that that was sufficient.
Okay, well, just to maybe note that for future discussion. And what's the next steps for this project after this board looks at it?
Just site plan approval.
Site plan approval. Okay. All right, thanks. Any other questions? Did we lose Brian? Where did he go? We'll wait till he comes back. Yep. Okay. Well, in any event, that concludes my comments. We'll wait for Brian and then see if anyone has any other questions or a motion, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Chris. Well, Chris, while we're waiting on Brian, real quick, can you, just one last question that came up on the commentary or questions about the landscape buffer on the west side. Do you have the landscape plan for the west portion there against the courtyard to the Colonial building?
I have a portion of it here. Oops, let me just find the right slide again.
And then maybe just also reconfirm the zoning of that property and the potential build out for that lot if it were to be
yes,
built out to its full extent with or without incentives.
Yeah, this is the landscape plan here. I didn't shade in on my review, but as you can see, there is the necessary there's a 5'8" buffer that they are including. It's not required for the side interior. They are adding that, so this will be buffered with plants and vegetation. And then, as the architect alluded to, continuation of that green screening on the facade on the lower floors. In terms of the overall site, it is in the QBD 10 to 25. So the lot area is 0.82 acres, so about 3,500 square feet, or just over 3,500 square feet. The permitted FAR is 6.5 through the TDR incentives. This allows a gross building area of 32,375 square feet. The applicant's proposal is 32,368 square feet. So it does fall in that 6.5 FAR. The building height permitted maximum is 25 stories. Again, the applicant alluded to that their project is 19 stories.
Right. But does the property to the west, the Colonial building, does it have the same zoning
yes,
criteria?
that is also within that
district.
QBD 10 to 25 range.
Thanks. Well, maybe we suggest maybe a little augmentation of the landscape buffer on that west property line, if that's possible for staff to revisit that with the architect and the landscape architect.
Yeah, we can certainly discuss that.
Well, I don't have any further comments. Does anyone have anything or want to make a motion on this? We have
Motion to approve.
Two components.
Motion to approve granting a variance. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the variance requested included in DAC case number 2103 as follows. 1, a variance from section 94-132, table 4-42, incentive building requirements, QBD 10-25, story receiving sites regarding the minimum required active uses above the second floor Liners 2 to 5 stories or 80 feet along a primary pedestrian street to tourist street from 60% to 22%. Staff recommends the following condition for approval of variance. 1, for the non-active screening of the garage structure, the punch-out design of the building's windows shall be continued, maintaining the window frame and mullions while recessing the mesh screening behind the window frame. This variance approval is made conditional upon the restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards listed in the Planning Division staff report dated December 8, 2021, that I move are necessary to ensure the compliance with the purpose and intent of the zoning code and consistent with the downtown master plan and the comprehensive plan of the city of West Palm Beach. This motion is based upon the testimony presented along with the application submitted, which constitutes competent, substantial evidence that the standards in sections 94-38D6 have been met.
That's the motion for the variance component. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, that motion carries. Someone like to make a motion on the special review component?
Motion to approve granting the special review. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the special review for DAC case number 2104 as listed in the staff report dated December 8, 2021 with the following conditions. 1, proposed pickup and drop-off area along Quadrille Plaza Drive shall be for ride-sharing services only, taxi, Uber, Lyft, etc. The on-site valet operation shall not utilize this space. 2, adjust the garage egress to provide a direct pedestrian connection from the internal valet to the sidewalk along Deterra Street. 3, requests additional support information that specifies that the green wall material shall not be artificial, only living vegetation is permitted, that the proposed planting material is viable, and the irrigation shall meet the standards of maintaining the plant's viability. 4, remove a portion of the landscape on the south side of Quadrille Plaza Drive adjacent to the proposed bike racks in order to allow a wider and more direct sidewalk connection for pedestrians crossing the alley. The adjustment shall keep the landscape east of the property line. Staff recommends extending the planting area along the southern property line of the project in the area adjacent to the alleyway in order to capture the space for additional vegetation and to provide a green buffer between the building and alleyway. 5, the proposed shower facility within the bike room on the ground floor shall include both a toilet and vanity. 6, the 7th and 6th floor terrace along the western side of the property shall be removed entirely or lowered to a level to comply with the conditional 20-foot side interior setback for floors above the 5th level. 7, refine the design pattern of the horizontal bands to ensure they are an integral part of the facade design and not an applied element. The motion is based on a determination of the testimony presented at this hearing along with the application submitted constitute a preponderance of competent, substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Article 2, Section 94-52B2.
Okay, let's have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I would just like to add in, if it's okay with the motion maker, the item.
Mr. Chair, quick, Gregory here. Is it possible to add to condition number 1 that the proper signage will be added? So after the fact that we know that this recommendation that staff made can carry on by adding the proper traffic signage that allowed only ride-sharing services on that on the quadrille.
Sorry, again, could you wait?
So I
Go ahead. Can you just repeat that to Chris and let him?
Yes. To add the right signage on quadrille, so once the project is complete, that condition can be enforced.
Okay. Signage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can include that with the site plan approval.
Okay, thanks. And then would the motion maker consider an item 8 to augment or have staff work with the landscape architect to augment the landscape buffer on the west side of the property?
Yes, he would agree to that.
That's acceptable. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, the motion referenced 9452. It should have said 9454B2.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Okay.
For the special review.
Thanks. Motion second, no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on this project for the efforts in coordination with staff, and thank you, everyone, for showing up and giving us your opinions on this project. So we'll move forward to the next case on the reorder, which is Downtown Action Committee case.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we're back to 2103.
I appreciate that.
Actually, we'll take a 2-minute break while staff gets set up.